Hello, everyone. Welcome today to America's Data Hub Innovation Challenge informational webinar. My name is Laura Murphy, and I'm your MC for the hour. Today, we're going to explore some of the ins and outs of the challenge itself, as well as learn more about our challenge partner, America's Data Hub Consortium. So just for some housekeeping, if you could be sure to remain on mute as we move through the hour. And if you have any questions, please type them in the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel. It's just that area on the side of your screen. And we'll get to as many of those at the end of the call as we can. If we're unable to get to a question, we'll follow up with you after the webinar. So you can be assured that anything you have to, that you need to get to the bottom of, we will respond to before it's time to submit your entry. So to get us started, joining me today is Jonathan Yakishaw. He's one of our challenge administrators, and he's also the Senior Manager of Open Innovation Programs for Tech Connect. And Tech Connect is a division of Advanced Technology International. So Jonathan's going to speak about the challenge operations, and later we'll hear from Vipin Arora to hear a little bit more about America's Data Hub Consortium. So we'll start with you, Jonathan. So without further ado, you can kick us off.
Great, thanks, Laura. Okay, so to begin with, I imagine you're all wondering, what is the goal of this challenge? Broadly speaking, the goal of this challenge is innovations in data handling. Now, what kind of data handling are we talking about? You name it is the short version of it. Data integration, data security, data dashboards, privacy. If you deal in data and handling data, odds are we're probably interested in hearing from you. Now, obviously, that's a pretty big bucket. To help you all out, we've broken it up into 4 distinct, but still fairly broad buckets. And you can see those on your screen right now. First off, analytical techniques. Having tons of data is fantastic. However, you need to be able to understand what that data is telling you about the future, about the past, about how things are right now. So if you've got new and different ways to analyze that data, that's something that we're interested in. Likewise, data dashboards. Having that data is great, but having a way to visualize that data, to be able to communicate what that data means is definitely valuable, whether that's an internal communication or an external communication. That is something that's going to be valuable. So if you've got a way to integrate disparate forms of data into a single dashboard, that's great. We want to hear from you. Because the data points that we're talking about very often refer to individual people, data security and privacy is super important. So if you've got new ways to keep data secure, that is something that we would be interested in hearing about. Likewise, if you have new, different, better ways to anonymize data so that it can't be backtracked to an individual person, that is something that we are also interested in. Conversely to data security and privacy is data linking and access. It's great to have those security tools in place to make sure that people that shouldn't have access to the data don't have access to the data. It is likewise important to be able to distribute data to people who are authorized to use it. So if you've got a way to distribute data and make sure that the access control is in place so that the right people have access to the right data at the right time, that is something that fits here. So, too far. Okay. Talked a little bit about what the scope of the challenge is. Now, who would be interested in participating? Obviously, this isn't an exhaustive list. We're interested in innovators across the data spectrum. So if you work in artificial intelligence or machine learning for handling data, we would be interested in hearing from you. Likewise, if you're an analytics company, that would be fantastic. Companies that specialize in data access or distribution or linking or security or privacy, that is going to be of interest to us as part of this challenge. And as I said, this isn't meant to be an exhaustive list. If you don't really see yourself on this list, but you've got an innovative tool that works in data handling, please consider responding to this challenge. We would love to hear from you. So how do you go about responding? I'm going to assume that most, if not all of you, have visited the challenge page. If you haven't, the URL is up on your screen right there. that really is your starting point. It's from that page that you are going to access the online response form. I've put a little screen grab right there on the screen, so look for that button that says Submit Innovations, and that is where you're going to access the online response form. I'll talk a little bit more about what is on the response form and what kinds of information to include in just a little bit, but that really is your starting point. Once all the submissions are in and the evaluators have had the chance to look them over, finalists will be invited to pitch their technologies and their approaches at Defense Tech Connect in September this year in National Harbor, just outside of Washington, D.C. And I'll talk a little bit more about what the Defense Tech Connect opportunity is in a subsequent screen. Very, very important to all of you here. If you are interested in responding, and I certainly hope that you are, the submission deadline is June 30th of this year. Now, that's about 2 weeks away, and some of you may be inclined to think that you don't have time to prepare an adequate response for the challenge in that 2-week time frame. And I'm here to tell you that you definitely do have time to respond to it. And I look forward to seeing some of those submissions when they come in. So, what kinds of information are requested when it comes to the online response form? I put a couple of bullet points there on your screen. When you click on that Submit Innovations button, you will see the entire online response form. So you will know exactly what is being asked of you throughout the entire response form. But broadly speaking, you've got contact information. Obviously, it's very important that we can contact you if we want to tell you that you've been selected as a finalist for the challenge. A summary of your technology, the technical maturity, the value proposition, what makes your technology better than other technologies that are out there? That would be great to know. Are there certain awards that you have received or contracts that you've been granted that really help to explain further the value of your approach? Tell us about your executive team and who they are and what their experience is, that kind of information. But like I said, you can see the entire run of questions once you click on that form. Obviously, it's an online form, and you need to submit your response through that online form in order to be considered. But if you would like to build your response offline, we've got you taken care of. On that online response form page, you will see a templated doc that gives you all of those exact same questions. So you can build your response offline, consult with colleagues if you need to, in order to build out that award-winning information for your response. You'll still need to paste it into the online form in order to participate, but using that document, which I just want to stress is not required, gives you a way to figure out exactly what you want to say in the way that you want to say it, in the most compelling way you want to say it prior to your submission. One of the questions that I see quite often is what makes a good submission? And it's really dependent on your experience and your technology and what you want to communicate. But broadly speaking, I've kind of distilled it down into those few bullet points that you see on the right. That very first one, however, is not a suggestion, it is a requirement. Non-confidential information only. Don't share anything with us that you are not comfortable sharing outside of a confidentiality agreement. That really is for the protection of literally everyone involved, from your organization to ATI to the consortium itself. We and you, nobody can be accused of misappropriating or misusing intellectual property if none has changed hands. So please keep that in mind when you're crafting your response. The next bullet point is high level. We're not looking for you to create a novel length description of your technology. A, because you've only got 2 weeks. B, because, well, it would take too long for everybody to read through all of those submissions. So keep it high level. When you look at the online response form, you will see that the total length of information that's requested is around about 1,000 words. So what, 2 to 3 pages worth of content? Not a whole lot of space. It really is intended to be a high-level introduction to your technology. So keep that in mind. The one reverse of that that I will comment on is don't give us a response that says, yeah, I'm an expert in data handling, give me a call. Too little information is not persuasive. Likewise, too much information is not persuasive. The next 3 bullet points kind of go together: descriptive, engaging, and compelling. You want all of the information that you share in your response to be just that: descriptive, engaging, and compelling. You want the evaluators to read through your response and have a phenomenal understanding of what your technology can do, the potential end use cases for it, how it's better than alternatives. Really, you want them to come away with the reaction that I want this particular organization to be a finalist. That really is your goal. The last one is tightly focused. As I mentioned, you've got about 1,000 words to describe your technology. It's not a whole lot of space, but you can present sufficient information that tells the evaluators about your technology. Decide where your focus level is. Some of the organizations that are interested in participating in this challenge may have multiple technologies that they would like to submit for consideration. Great. So if you've got technology A, your response for that technology should only focus on technology A. Don't tell me about technology B when you're focused on technology A. Likewise, if you've got an omnibus technology that covers lots of different underlying and supporting technologies, that's where your focus needs to be. It needs to be on that omnibus technology as opposed to the underlying stuff. Focus on that omnibus technology and tell me about what that does together rather than the individual components separately. The analogy that I like to use when talking to people who are responding to a project for the first time is that your response really is an introduction. Imagine you are going to a dinner party and someone you've never met before asks what you do. You're going to give them the good, high-level, interesting, really interesting and compelling information about what you do, in the hopes that that other person, that person that you've never met before, says, I want to learn more. And for the purposes of this analogy, being selected as a finalist for this challenge really is that follow-up question of, tell me more about what you do. So keep that in mind when you're building your response. You want to convince the judges that you really should be a finalist for this challenge. So I hope that's helpful. So we've talked about what the challenge is. We've talked about how to go about building a response. I imagine a lot of you are wondering what's in it for you. Totally valid question. First and foremost, well, maybe not foremost, but first is the prize pool. There's a $50,000 prize pool. It's not a non-dilutive prize pool. Separate and apart from the financial incentive is the non-financial stuff. The finalists will be invited to pitch at Defense Tech Connect in the fall. And in the room when you're doing your pitch will be representatives from the industry, investment opportunities, as well as government representatives. And by government representatives, I'm talking everything potentially from municipalities up to representatives from the federal government. So you're going to have a wide swath of people listening to you talk about your technology. And that's a great opportunity. Likewise, there is the potential for membership in ADC, America's Data Hub Consortium. And you all are going to hear more about that in just a little bit. So that is, ADC, very briefly, is the bridge between industry and government. And lastly, as far as an incentive, there is the networking opportunities that Defense Tech Connect will present for you. Defense Tech Connect is well attended by representatives from a number of different technical domains. And what do I mean by that? I'm talking materials to medical devices, to energy, to transportation, to defense itself, and more that I just haven't been able to list out for you. So you're going to be rubbing elbows with people who are going to be interested in hearing about your technology and networking with them. There may be opportunities for you that you hadn't even considered, or for those people who never considered working with someone like you. So there are a lot of incentives here for you to participate, and I hope that you will participate. And I'll just say in closing here, thank you all for listening and looking forward to hearing your questions. Once again, I've been Jonathan Yakasha from Tech Connect. Thanks for listening.
Thanks,
Laura?
Jonathan. That is awesome, super helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, next we're going to hear from Vipin Arora. He is the Deputy Division Director of the National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics out of the National Science Foundation. And he's also our representative from America's Datahub Consortium. And before he gets started, I just want to remind everyone, if you have questions of Jonathan, or if you develop questions throughout Vipin's talk, please add those to the questions section in your GoToWebinar control panel. And that way we can get to them as soon as we're done here. So Vipin, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Laura and Jonathan, and it's great to be here to talk to everyone. Yeah, before I jump into, you all are wondering, what is America's Datahub Consortium? I know you probably checked the website out, and I'm going to tell you about that, where it came from at a very high level. I want to thank the Tech Connect team and ATI. I mean, you got a real all-star team over there. The way they put these things together and how professionally it's run, to me, it's a really exciting opportunity just to do something new and innovative, and to potentially see some rewards at the end of it, to include some of the networking opportunities that Jonathan talked about. I did like your analogy, Jonathan, about the dinner party. The pitches I've given at dinner parties over my life have never worked. So hopefully, some of you have had success in those endeavors in the past. In any case, like Laura said, I'm Vipin Arora. I'm the Deputy Director here at the National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics within NSF. And I'd like to start, very high level, tell you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and then transition into the same thing for America's Data Hub. What is America's Data Hub? Why do we form America's Data Hub, and what exactly are we trying to do with it? But first on to NCSES. First and foremost, we are NSF statistical agency, and we're the one place you go when you want to understand things like science, technology, and innovation. Whether it's data, we do a lot of surveys, and we provide a host of analytical products that cover the whole science, technology, and innovation enterprise. And so if you think about that for a second, what sector of the U.S. economy does innovation not touch? Where is technology not prevalent within our society, within our country? And so NCSES information and data is relevant to you no matter who you are or what you do. When we think about it, we like to, in the government, we like to categorize things and put complicated acronyms on them. So like we tend to divide things into like R&D and innovation areas and science and engineering workforce. But as you think about that, you'll see that all of those things, they cross over. There's a tremendous amount of overlap there. I'll just close in terms of my introduction to NCSES by saying not only are we an NSF statistical agency, we're part of this small group of federal statistical agencies. There's 13 so-called principal federal statistical agencies. Some household names like the Census Bureau, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. NCSES is also part of that group. So we have a foot in these two worlds, the stat system and also some of the great cutting edge stuff that an NSF does. All right, so on to the main event, and that's high level for what are we trying to do with America's Data Hub Consortium. And here, I'll give you a second here to read the vision, but it's really about helping the American public and helping the American people. We want to use data, use information to bring together people for collaborative research. And importantly, you'll notice that it really is big picture because it's something we want to be long-standing. We call it here a national asset, but ultimately, honestly, guys, it's about something that's going to benefit the American people, bringing folks together and securely using information. Now, I bet you look at this and you think, well, there's a trillion ways you could slice and dice this vision, right? Yeah, there is. There definitely is. And so you don't want to drill down a little bit on what exactly we're thinking. And this may have a bit too much detail, but I love this. I love this particular look at America's Data Hub because what it does is it shows you how you can combine certain things to get outcomes that we all want, and outcomes that will support the vision that I just talked about. First and foremost is there's certain legal authorities that statistical agencies have around data protection and data access. So you're taking that, you have that capacity within the Datahub Consortium to use that legal authority. That's our legal authority. And then the capabilities that we have, the organizations that are already in the consortium, or the organizations that may join in terms of things that they can do, like providing the data linkage capabilities. Jonathan talked about how we want that to be part of the challenge, the analysis, expanding information dissemination, and on, right? You can read the functions here. You combine those two things, and you're looking at, huge outcomes in terms of helping to modernize data infrastructure, not just for the statistical system, but potentially across the government and across the country. Innovation is at NSF, that's what we do. And so, of course, we're looking at increased innovation, and then critically for America's Data Hub Consortium, and the reason we went with the consortium structure is partnerships and leveraging, building partnerships to solve some of the toughest problems that we have, right? So we've talked about the big picture vision and what we're actually doing within the Data Hub. I want to just digress for a minute and just tell you, well, why? Where did this come from? Why is NCSES doing this? Why is that? What's the logic here? And the logic is that this is the type of thing we do all the time at NCSES. As an example, these are two examples. We have many more. Two of our congressionally mandated reports that I've shown here take information from a variety of sources, securely access it, bring it together, link it, and then we disseminate it. In recent years, the National Academy has recommended to us to say, you know what, you guys do this all the time, and you do it pretty well. You need to do it bigger. You need to do it faster. And they recommended we stand up something like America's Data Hub. And so we followed that recommendation, of course, with other advice and other modifications. And that's really the lineage of where the Data Hub comes from. I will say, though, many others have seen the value in this consortium. Recently, some of you may be familiar with the Advisory Committee on Data for Evidence Building, which is part of the Evidence Act. It's mandated in the Evidence Act. They recently recommended that this consortium, America's Data Hub Consortium, be a foundation. It's a preliminary recommendation, but publicly made, that this be a foundation for a potential national secure data service. So there is others that are seeing a lot of value in what we're trying to do with America's Data Hub Consortium. All right, on to, so then normally what, we go through, you say the who, what, where, when, why, and people say, okay, what is this thing? Show us what it looks like. And so here's the picture of what it actually looks like. And I'm gonna walk you through this. And at a high level, I think the way to think about the Data Hub is that it's not a place. You're not looking at a warehouse down on Eisenhower Avenue in Alexandria, right? That's not what we're talking about. I think of it as a mechanism for enabling evidence building. And I'll say that again, a mechanism for evidence building, because there's so many ways that the Data Hub can work. And so I think that'll become clear as I walk through this. But I think you want to conceptualize this starting at the top left there at the project level. So we think of the project, you have two in terms of projects, right? So you have a project that's submitted to
I have Vipin sort of jumping out of his signal. Gonna let him try to come back. Give him just a minute here, and maybe his signal will strengthen again. I see motion. You there, Vipin? Okay. While we get Vipin back, Jonathan, can I go ahead and have you come on video? And I've got a couple of questions that have come in for you. So while we allow Vipin's internet to circulate again, I'll go ahead and ask those.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you touched on this a little bit, but just to reiterate, one of our attendees asked, can we submit multiple proposals or proposals that span multiple areas? For example, privacy preserving record linkage from a single organization.
Yes. What I would recommend is that consider how much you can separate those interlinking things. If you've got a technology that does XYZ performance, fantastic, focus on that. If you've got a technology that spans a couple of different things, I think you're kind of at that omnibus level that I was talking about, that your focus needs to be a little bit shifted. You're not going to focus on the individual components, you're going to focus more on that unified whole. So if you've got that multi-component response, I think that's where your focus needs to be. As far as submitting multiple responses, yeah, absolutely. We know that organizations that work in data are likely to have lots of different bits and pieces that fit within the scope of this challenge. And we would love to hear as many different proposals from as many different organizations as possible. So think about how well each of those components can stand alone. And if they need to be integrated into a single proposal, then make sure that you're focusing on the right area, not the individual components, but that unified whole. So I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, feel free to submit a question again, and we'll tackle it again if we have to.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question we have is from Edward. How many finalists do you intend to have? I know this is a bit of a unique question in our case of how we run.
That's a really good question, and it depends on a lot of factors that we don't really know just yet. I don't believe it's specified anywhere the number of finalists that will be selected. It depends on the number and quality of proposals that we get. If we get lots of submissions, which would be a fantastic problem to have, then I think that would mean that we could invite more finalists to the event. It's a great opportunity for you all if we can invite more finalists, and quite frankly, it's good for us if we can invite more finalists.
Yeah, I think to build on that, that's exactly right, is my understanding also, is we aren't going to cut out a super strong finalist from pitching and being present at the event. But so, you know, there's not a hard and fast number, but I think on average, we look at about 20. So we tend to be in that space. Vipin, you're back. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm in the headquarters building here too, and it's just been cutting out all day. So everyone, I'm really sorry about that. I don't know where I left off or whatnot, but hopefully I wasn't frozen on screen with my mouth open.
No, you weren't, but I'm going to make you presenter again, and we'll come back to questions once you're finished presenting.
All right, thank you so much. So, yep, hopefully should be back up.
Good to go.
I was going around the wheel here. Awesome. And so, key thing here, everyone, that I just want to focus on is in the middle there, and that is the consortium members. And there's this great analogy I think the head of NSF contracting has in terms of explaining what the consortium is, and the members are the key part. These are the organizations, and we've listed them there as industry leaders, non-traditionals, academic organizations that are actually going to do the work. So the project comes in, these are the innovators, that are going to solve some of our most pressing problems, and they're members of the consortium. That's the beauty, that's the power of America's Datahub Consortium, is that you have all this talent available to do a lot of the critical work, and some of these projects are going to be very, very challenging. And so that gives, at a high level, gives you a sense of what, mechanically at least, the Datahub Consortium looks like. And I'll be remiss, because I know Mike Atkinson's in the back here for ATI is going to be like, you didn't mention us. Yeah, ATI, the consortium management firm, all-star team. Just like Tech Connect, all-star team. I mean, they're so good. They're the ones, you know, if you like, that you know, build the stadium that the members play on. The members of the players on the field, ATI and team kind of builds the stadium. So just a great organization for us to work with. And I do, you know, I do want to talk a little bit about the consortium model, because I feel like there's a tremendous amount of benefit to all of us, particularly to government. And the first and foremost, at least from my perspective, you know, this is the first time that I personally have worked with the consortium, is the innovation that the members bring. I think that the potential and the actualized innovation that we get from a consortium is just amazing. And I've been very, very impressed with it. The collaboration is critical. Speed, you know, all of us really like speed. The flexibility, there's so many things to like with this consortium. So those organizations that are out there, if you're consider joining, I mean, just think about it, because there's just so many advantages to being part of this, and there's there is and is going to be some great critical work that goes on within the consortium. I'm gonna just skip over this. What I want to say about this is that we're taking a phased approach to how we're developing America's Datahub Consortium. I mentioned earlier that we believe that it's, it can serve as the foundation for a national secure data service. We believe that every step we take informs a potential national secure data service. And so we've divided into 4 phases, roughly speaking. But, you know, these things can change over time, because we believe that we're going to learn as we go. So we're in phase 1 right now. We focused on certain things. We plan to move to phase 2 in December of this year, but we know that we're going to adapt based on what we learned in phase 1, and so on and so forth for phases 3 and 4. But what you can see is there's certain areas right now we want to focus on. There's a plan we have for folks that can request, and there's a proposed governance structure. Again, these things, as we learn, we're going to modify, and that's the beauty of using this approach. I want to come back to the project requester, because I know that, at least I hope, maybe it's wishful thinking, that there's a lot of folks on here from state and local governments. And it is, when we say other agencies, that doesn't just mean federal agencies. We would love to work with state agencies in terms of projects to go through America's Datahub Consortium. So that is out there. We want to partner with state agencies. And governments can work with us in different ways. You don't have to request a project. You can partner potentially with a member. You could be a data provider. You could just be a data user that says, hey, we're interested in this. Let's talk about how we can use that information. So there's lots of ways to partner with America's Datahub Consortium. But the key thing is, with this, is we've got it in phases. We're going to learn as we go, and it's a very flexible way to approach some of our critical problems. So yeah, I would end by saying join the team. I think there's a lot of great stuff going on here, a lot of excitement in and around America's Datahub Consortium. And I always say, like, I'll talk to anyone, anywhere about this. So I thank you for your time, and Laura, I'll pass it back over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Vipin. So the time has now come for Q&A. So I'm going to invite Jonathan back on as well, and we'll get to as many of your questions as we can here. We've gotten a lot of engagement so far, so I'll try to hit as much as possible. But please go ahead and submit more. As I mentioned, if there's anything that we don't get to, we will afterwards. So not to worry. Jonathan, this one's for you. If there are 5 finalists, does that mean there's $10,000 for each entry?
I believe that is the plan, to divide the prize pool equally amongst all the finalists. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question, which I guess either of you could answer, is from Levent. Very interesting. Thank you. Is the challenge open for European startups? Are they evaluated equally?
So Jonathan, in terms of the challenge, I'll let you comment on a specific challenge. The membership is restricted to U.S. To U.S.-based companies for America's Data Hub Consortium.
As far as the challenge itself goes, I don't believe that there is any specific restriction on non-US entities to participate. So obviously, if your primary interest in participation is that ADC membership, you need to be aware that, as Vipin just said, that's not really going to be an option for you. That all being said, you know, we would love to hear from as many different people as we can, because technology is technology is technology.
Absolutely. I think that there may just be a couple of exceptions to the international rule.
Yes.
Export controlled countries for the US are not invited to apply, but you can see all of that in the official rules, and if you need that sent to you, any of us are happy to do that. So
yeah.
Vipin, are you interested in causal inference methodology? I can't say it, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm thinking. Methodology techniques.
So I'm technologically illiterate, so that to me was a different language. But I think we're interested in anything and everything that's innovative and that can help inform some of the goals that Jonathan laid out. So yes, I can unequivocally say, yeah, we are.
Okay, great. Shelly asks, if we have a tech solution where our customer brings on its whole network of partners and we can pull in loads of data from large numbers of organizations, do we need to have built all of the machine learning or AI, or is it sufficient that we can add that to analyze massive amounts of data? So do they need, I think it sounds like, is a component solution an option? Do they need to have built out the full machine learning or AI interface?
Vipin, you want to answer first? Or do you want me to start?
Go ahead.
These are great questions.
They're stumping me. This is making me nervous.
And also, we can circle back if we want to touch base with anyone.
Yeah,
I think that's fine too.
What I was going to say is, obviously, a comprehensive A to Z, do everything that anybody could ever possibly want with data solution would be fantastic. But the likelihood that anybody's got that soup to nuts solution is slim. So almost by default, we are looking at partial solutions where somebody comes in and says, I've got a great analytics piece, and a different finalist comes in and says, I've got this great homomorphic data privacy